Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It has been a minute since I've uploaded some long form training content. This is a summation of the last 3 to 4 months of training in which I've been overcoming some patella tendon issues. So haven't been able to sprint and jump for the best part of 2.5 months, and only just now starting to reintroduce jumps and sprints back into the program. So just going to talk you through that whole journey and how we got from there to where I am today. Hopefully you can get some value out of this, and maybe you've got something entertaining to eat your food with as well. So throughout this process, I decided to bite the bullet and hire a coach for myself. Liam, if you're watching this, massive shout out to you. Liam Forbes, Links Athletic Development, absolutely fantastic athletic coaching system and service and program. Liam basically has programmed me out of knee pain, patella tendon issues, right patella tendinopathy. At this point, I was kind of not sure if it was patella tendonitis or tendinopathy, but on a call we had the other day, I think we came to the conclusion that it's definitely tendinopathy because this right knee has been an issue for a very, very long time. Basically as long as I can remember, for the last 5 years, but I've always just tried to train through it and just do as much jumping as I can, and then kind of fall off of the jump training when the knee pain flares up. So we're kind of working through it and addressing this knee pain and fixing it for good. So the main focus of the first part of the program was just building up my hinging movements, because there's no knee flexion involved in hinging movements. So that was a lot of snatch grip deads, that was a lot of single leg lab mine deadlifts, and a lot of stiff legged deadlifts. Really just building up the posterior chain, because it's something that I can succeed at and get the psychological gains out of that, boost up my ego a little bit, and maybe get a deadlift PR. That was the logic at the start of the program. Build up my basic just squatting, my hinging and pushing movements. So building up my press, my strict press, my push press, and all of the hinging movements, and then just building the program out around that, along with the patella tendon rehab stuff, which is basically what you're going to be doing every single day. So we programmed in 45 to 90 second ISOs 2 to 3 times a day with pain tracking, seeing how the pain score comes down. And then we gradually started to introduce jumping and depth landings to see how the tendon could store elastic energy and produce energy from a more concentric or more force dominant jump. So been an absolutely fantastic experience. For any of you, if you're a coach, if you're an athlete, especially if you're a coach, if you're an S&C performance type coach, I would highly, highly recommend that you should hire a coach for yourself, because if you're busy training your other athletes and you have a very busy lifestyle, it just makes sense to outsource your training. And in the long run, it will pay off for you in terms of your athletic development to just outsource your coaching to someone else. Yes, it is fun to program for yourself, but when you program for yourself, you have a huge blind spot in a lot of the things that the kind of bandwidth of the things that you're expecting for yourself, and the bandwidth of the exercises that you would program for yourself. When you have an external objective perspective, then there's a lot of things that are going to be programmed in for you that you wouldn't program in for yourself, and also the accountability side of things as well. You're paying for it, so you see the value in it, obviously. So you're obviously going to do the programming if you have respect for your own money and the fact that you paid for it. So I would highly, highly recommend coaching if you're considering it. So anyway, depth landings, we started to build up the single leg and the double leg depth landings to improve the energy storage capacity of my patella tendon. And then concentric only seated box jumps with a stiff leg to keep something explosive in the program, somewhat jumping that's not going to massively exacerbate the knee pain. Also some very, very low intensity hide and skater jumps. Towards the start of the program, there were practically no jumps whatsoever. Lots and lots of accessories, lots and lots of isometrics, lots and lots of lower leg, foot and ankle work that then transitioned into the jumps. One more thing that was going on in the background of all of the training was 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups every single day on either this pull-up bar or pull-up bars in the gym. I noticed some pretty significant gains from it in terms of upper body size. The picture on the left is around January, February this year, and the picture on the right was taken 3 days ago. So I've gained a pretty significant amount of size on my upper body. Now, whether that's solely just because of the push-ups and the pull-ups, or also because I've been taking creatine 10 grams a day, for not just physical benefits like performance benefits, there are also cognitive performance benefits to creatine as well. So whether that's just because of the water retention and the added kind of size that creatine offers, or if it is also solely because of the push-ups and the pull-ups, or some combination of two, which is likely the case, that is to be determined. So yeah, hinging wise, I worked up to heavy set of 5 for stiff-legged deads in this powerlifting / strongman gym that's near me. I was considering actually working here as a PT and strength coach, and I may start training here more in the future because they have pretty much all of the facilities you'd want. Competition standard plates, calibrated plates, deadlift bars, all of the wacky bars that you could think of, cambered bars, the tsunami bars. They even have a belt squat machine here, power racks, everything. They have everything, even a CrossFit section as well. And then on the next set, I worked up to a heavy set of 5 again. I think this would have been a 5 RM even just for regular conventional deadlifts at this point, but for stiff leg deads, 185 for a set of 5 was a big PR for me. Then moved on to this was supposed to be triples, but I felt like I had the energy for a single today. I really wanted to max out my strict press to see how much overhead pressing strength I had gained. Previous PR was 70 kilos, and working up to a heavy 1RM at 75 felt really, really good. I only wish the 80 was there. I feel like had I not paired deadlifts with this and just gone in and done strict press straight away, 80 was there, but you'll see throughout this video that 80 is becoming my nemesis. I keep on missing 80, but it is going to be there soon, very, very soon. This was also the heaviest workout that I did for stiff leg or straight leg landmine deadlifts. Really, really great hinging variation here. Really good way to get a contralateral emphasis on a single leg hinging variant. So you get left leg, right arm, or right arm, left leg, and you get that tension coming across the body. As I said, that contralateral passion, loading the thoracolumbar fascia and the opposite sides of the body. That is very, very useful for athletic movements. At this point, we decided to reintroduce squatting very, very carefully, very careful not to exacerbate the knee issues. I'm surprised at how much of my squatting strength I was able to retain. My previous 5 rep PR was 150 for 5, which I did as like 4 sets of 5. And I was able to very, very comfortably hit 140 for sets of 5 with an RP like 7-8. So just lends credence to the theory that if you build up your deadlift, you will probably increase your squat. And if you build up your squat, you will probably increase your deadlift, particularly if it's front squat and deadlift as well. But that being said, if you build up the posterior chain lent all the way forwards on a deadlift, then there's no doubt in my mind that assuming that you've done a little bit of maintenance work on your squat, or you just work back into doing squats heavily, all of the gains that you would have got from doing heavier deadlifts will transfer quite nicely into, even if it's a high bar ATG back squat, it will transfer quite nicely into there. Then we started to reintroduce some jumps into the program. So single leg on the non-painful knee, so left-legged jumps, as well as some off-foot jumps, the jumps that would exacerbate the knee pain the littlest, while also providing an athletic stimulus that is not just going to be just plain old strength training. At this point, I now PR by deadlift for a triple. Previously, my old 1RM was 200. Hit it numerous times with various different styles, but I'd never done it for reps. So doing that for 2 sets was big psychological win. One factor that is really important to mention, this is just like psychologically, at least from my own perspective, if you have a certain target or a certain output that you're trying to increase, but you just literally cannot do it because of injury or because of whatever reason, it's very important to have things in your program that you can win at so that you still get the feeling of psychological progress and psychological gains. So The fact that I couldn't jump was a massive bummer because that's my main training goal, increase my vertical jump to dunk and also sprinting to run faster. Those two things are not conducive when you're experiencing quite bad knee pain. So working back into building up strength, especially in movements that don't exacerbate it, is a very, very important thing. And that's one thing that I've learned when programming for my own athletes in the future, if they're coping with injuries. Here you see the depth landings progressing and also the height of the stiff-legged box jumps or the relatively straight-legged box jumps. One thing I did notice after my deadlifts increased was that my off-vert jumps and dunks massively improved. They massively improved. You can see here also reintroducing squatting again. This was the second week of doing 140 by 5. Felt really nice. This week wasn't as good as the week before, but nonetheless, I was really trying to experiment with this kind of middle bar squatting style. So nowhere near as high on your back, on your traps as a high bar squat is, but also slightly above where a low bar squat would be. So above the spine of your scapula, basically, is where I put the bar. That then allows you to have a little bit more extension in the squat. You can really open up and puff up the chest a little bit more. You have to sacrifice a little bit of bracing for that, but especially if you've got non-favorable leverages for squatting like I do, relatively short tibias, relatively long femurs, and a really fucking long torso, it definitely helps to do the middle bar technique. I would highly recommend it to any of my other long femured, short tibiaed brethren out there. Also long torsoed brethren. Then here in this workout, also in street clothes, I had to go straight out after this, but I decided that I was going to go heavy on the deadlifts anyway. I hit a set of 3 and also a set of 2. It was an attempt at a set of 3, but it is what it is. Also throughout this process, I have PR'd my max pull-ups in one set. Again, not the most extension on the elbow at the bottom. It wasn't doing like a full dead hang at the end, but chin above the bar every single rep. As little kipping as possible. There's still a little bit of kipping here, but these would be accepted in most pull-up tests. You'll also notice that the pull-up bar was not the most stable thing in the world, and I did it with straps, but I don't think I even needed straps, and I'm going to retest this again soon. But 25.5 is pretty decent, if I do say so myself. Then I hit 70, which was my old PR on strict press for a set of 3, really nicely. Something I often wonder about on strict press is, should you lower the bar onto the front rack every single rep, or can you on the first rep just press it out from the strict front rack position, and then after that you can kind of like get a little bit of that stretch reflex in the upper chest and anterior shoulder if you want to. If you've got any thoughts about that, drop me in the comments. Would love to hear it. Then I started to increase the volume of the jumps, building them up slightly, and also the approach mechanics, working on the approach mechanics, doing like ghost jumps here, not actually doing a full jump, but doing a relatively fast approach, some relatively heavy snatch grip deads for a triple. We kind of peaked the snatch grip deads for a heavy triple. The goal was to hit 170 for 3 before we then decided to go and max out the deadlift at the end of the block. So we got 160 for a triple here, and then the following week we decided to go up to 170, which was the goal that we were trying to hit. 2 sets of 160 here actually, which was quite nice. Also, I literally have a tripod for my camera. I even have like a really high level camera, but for some reason I was only using my phone and a water bottle to record this. So that is also why the video quality is so trash. So I apologize for that. Another thing that is really useful in having a coach is you have the blind spots opened up to you. Even in the first call, I realized that I was not doing enough, anywhere nearly enough accessories. I wasn't doing anywhere near enough accessories for my training. I was really just doing the main things. I was just sprinting, I was just jumping, I was doing the heavy compounds, and just very basic like nuts and bolts training, but not actually incorporating a decent enough volume on the accessories to build up the weak areas of my body, which is partly probably one of the reasons why I struggled with injury in my knee so often, is because I was neglecting accessories that were going to help it to develop. Especially things like hack squats, which you saw in the previous video, and these Hatfield single leg split squats. Really fantastic way to load a single-legged squatting pattern with a really solid amount of weight and stability. So I would highly recommend this exercise to anyone watching if you're looking at single leg squatting variants. Then we decided to go up with a little bit of volume on the squats. This was a set of 8 with 130, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was a set of 5, I don't remember exactly. But again, experimenting with that middle bar technique, really trying to maximize the amount of knee flexion in the bottom of the squat. Get as much quad activation as possible by staying as upright as possible with the torso, as much as humanly possible with my leverages. 130 for a set of 8 wasn't a PR at that weight, but you'll see later in the video I do hit a rep PR on squats. And what we were also doing is every single week on the jump and dunk attempts, we were just increasing the height of the rim by 1 inch every single time. So went from 9 foot to 9.1 to 9.2, 9.3, and towards the end of this video, you'll see that we work up to 9.4, and then this coming Monday, we're going to do 9.5. We have a little bet that on the height of the rim, at what height the rim is going to get to before I can't do the dunks anymore. So it's literally just off vert dunks and left-legged single leg jumps, the types of jumps that exacerbate the knee pain the least. I'm betting that it's going to be somewhere around 9.6, 9.7. Liam, obviously being a very encouraging coach, thinks it's going to be somewhere around 9.8, but stay tuned, guys, if you want to see that. Here was a big win for me. 205 kilos for a triple on deadlift PR. You'll see that I use the band because this is literally all of the weights that I have. I have some of the fattest 20 kilo bumper plates, which means that I can't load the bar super heavily. You'll see the third plate in there from the collar of the bar is like another regular 20 kilo plate. If I had more of those, I could absolutely have loaded the bar much heavier, but also after this, stripped the bar a little bit and decided I'd do a power clean. Haven't done power cleans in a little while, but super happy with how that 110 moved. I think this was a set of 5 with 65 kilograms. Again, just keeping the basic strict press going again. You know, if you actually look at this program and looking back at this video, it's very much like bread and butter, like squats, presses, pulls, squatting, hinging, pushing and pulling patterns. Also rowing, really, really basic, just progressively increasing those over time and working on accessories to help to build those up while waiting for the knee to heal and doing all of the necessary rehabilitation work and just allowing the tendon to do its thing as it heals. Tendons take a really long time to heal. So yeah, you have to be patient in that process. Also, I found this outdoor court that was grass. You don't often find grass basketball courts. Measured the height of this rim and it is 9'11", so almost a full 10-foot rim. So we decided that that's going to be a goal of mine to do an off-vert dunk there and also just like some short approach dunks on that grass rim. That'll be a fun goal to see if I can get before the end of this year, if not like the end of the summer, depending on how jump progress goes. Then we steadily started to progress into a more higher volume squatting frequency. So we ended up squatting 2 times a week with like barbell squats and then 1 extra time with some kind of squatting accessory, which would have been like a hack squat or a leg press. Also, we programmed in, so what you saw previously was the pause front squats for sets of 5. I did 115 there, and you'll see 120 on the following week. We also were, throughout this whole process, doing quarter squats, very, very slow and controlled, with a 15 or 10 to 15 second pause in that quarter squat position, maximally trying to push the knee as far over the toe as we can to really load up those quads and get a good stimulus on that patellar tendon. If you guys are experiencing any tendon pain, the most important thing that I can say to you is to load it as soon as you can in a pain-free manner, whether that's isometrics, heavy eccentrics, or some kind of slow, heavy eccentric. It's going to be a great stimulus for rebuilding the collagen and increasing the amount of collagen synthesis or the rate of collagen synthesis within that tendon. So would highly recommend slow eccentrics and isometrics until you can do just regular movements again, and then gradually go back into either sports play or intensive plyometrics. Push press triple here at 90. I was kind of hoping for 100. You'll see later in the video that I did work up to 100. Not the best form, but hey, we take those kind of W's. Building up the height on the depth drop landings, both double leg and single leg, as well as starting to incorporate some higher volume box jumps. A really good way to reintroduce jumping is with a box jump. A lot of people like to hate on box jumps because it's like not the true height of your vertical. It's, you know, how high you can bring your legs up or how high you can bend your knees. But it definitely decreases the impact of the landing. Like every time you jump onto a box, you're reducing the amount of impact that you'd have from the landing if you just landed from that height. So you're basically halving the amount of plyometric landing volume that you're doing every single workout. Yeah, you might have a short approach, but if you're jumping off of a box, you get a small jerk on the tendon when you do the jump, but when you come down from the landing, you're basically removing that entirely. So a really, really useful way to decrease the amount of stress that you'd have from jumps. Then here was that 3-rep PR set of snatch grip deads. Not best form, but it's a 3-rep PR, so it was really good. 170 for a triple felt nice. I think that's going to build a pretty solid base for when we build back into doing snatches later on in the program. We completely paused doing Olympic lifts purely because I wanted to focus on improving the health of patella tendon, and I think trying to incorporate Olympic lifts and also rehab the knee may have just caused a little bit too much stress. So here's an example of one of those accessories that I was working onto. These are hack squats. This is a kind of strange setup for a hack squat machine. Usually hack squat machines have the loading on the shoulders, but I quite like this setup. You can kind of pull with your hands as well as push with the lower back into the pad. Just goes to show how weak my quads are. This is barely 100 kilos for the entirety of the setup. The machine is like 18 kilograms unloaded plus the 25 and the 15 kind of makes that around 98 to 100 kilograms. Also, throughout the whole process, we were doing accessories for the calf and for the core as well. Plenty of other things that I haven't mentioned in the video or I just didn't get around to recording. Main thing I just had in all of these videos was all the compounds, all of the jumps, and all of the things that were working towards getting my knee to 100%, and all the things I was making progress on that I was super happy about. Another set of Hatfield split squats here. This setup was not quite as good as the previous setup was. But hey, we got it done. We still got 100 for 10 on each leg. Another set of 130 for 8 here on back squats. Again, building up that volume, building a decent base of volume and strength with that middle bar. As much knees over toes as possible, as much thoracic extension while maintaining the brace as possible in that squatting pattern. These were starting to feel really, really good, and you'll see later on in the video that we've started to intensify the squats a little bit more in this cycle. I believe these jumps now were working up to 9'3". These are definitely PRs for a lot of these jumps, especially for left leg. I haven't done a lot of left-legged jump or single-legged jump training throughout the entirety of my life, actually. So building these up slowly and just working on the technique on these jumps. Also the curving of the approach into the left leg, curving right and left is something that I had to kind of relearn how to do. But very excited to see how my single leg or left-legged jumping progresses over time. So yeah, that's been steadily progressing over time, 9'3" and then 9'4" a couple weeks ago. And yes, this is an example of some of the core exercises we were doing, some like deep spinal flexion work, spinal extension work, and lateral flexion work, training the core muscles like you would any other muscle in the body through a full range of motion with load, stretch and squeeze. There's nothing special about core muscles. They need to be trained in the same way as regular skeletal muscles would. Then there was a day where I found myself in a good environment to do some flips. This grass was really nice and soft. I had attempts at front flips, did some bridging work, and also did some back handsprings, some back flips, and some round off back flips. My form is not the best on these, but they are so freaking fun to do. Back handsprings are probably one of my favorite skills to do because it's like a dynamic bridge and you just get that really nice extension all throughout the posterior chain. So these were kind of the warm-up reps. This was one of the full reps. Very, very nice landing on the back flip. I think I did a better one later. Some kind of switching split squat jumps there, a double switch, nice clean back flip there, a couple of nice clean back flips. I find it very difficult to actually stick the landing, but these were really decent. Hadn't backflipped in months before this, and also hadn't done these before. Just goes to show how much of athleticism and athletic movement is about the qualities, the physical qualities of your body. One thing I was doing throughout this whole process was just maintaining my strength and building strength, and all of these flips felt like really explosive, really fun. You can see my girlfriend here. She's also incredibly flexible. She used to dance a lot, so she's capable of doing this like exorcist movement. Looks absolutely insane. then you can see me attempting to do the same thing. I can definitely get down, which is, I think is pretty impressive, but I cannot get up from this movement. I don't know how the hell she does that. Potentially it's leverages. I have no idea. Potentially it's practice, it's technique, but I really struggle to get out of the bridge and onto my feet. So that was a big L for me right there. But yeah, that was fun. Felt really nice to go and do some more athletic type of stuff, flips and jumps and all that good stuff. Then I hit a PR for pause front squats. I hit a set of 5 here with 120 kilos, 265 pounds. Which just goes to show again how the deadlift and the front squat, or squatting and hinging, are accessories to one another. The best accessory for squatting is hinging. The best accessory for hinging is squatting, in my opinion. Maybe not the other way around. It definitely works more deadlift towards squatting, but there's definitely some carryover from each movement to the other because you use so many of the same primary movers: glutes, hamstrings, quads, so on and so forth, upper back, all the posterior chain. Anyway, moving on to these 9-4 jumps. This is the highest rim that I've done so far in this cycle. We were able to start some shorter approach, two-legged, right leg and left leg. Right left and left right. I was able to hit a windmill on 9-4, which is a windmill PR. I was missing it with the right left approach, but coming in on the left right approach, these felt super explosive. I was getting pretty high on these. Not the cleanest windmill, but we take those kind of W's. I think a big goal for this cycle, towards the end of this cycle, is to see if I can't hit a 9'6" windmill. A 9'6" windmill will be really, really big progress. Really, really big progress for me, because it's not something I've hit before, and I'm actually not that far off of it. And I think I genuinely could hit a windmill on 9'6", as well as working up to doing some obviously higher rim dunks, 9'11", 10 feet. Again, working here on that quarter squat, pulsing out till RPE 7 plus a 10 to 15 second isometric. Again, continuing to load that quarter squat position to really maximally get tension upon the patellar tendon to maintain that isometric or long, slow or heavy isometric and eccentric stimulus upon the tendon. Then came the day to max out my deadlift. Spoiler alert, it was very underwhelming. Maxed out and got a PR, which was 215 kilos. I was definitely hoping for a lot more, but for whatever reason, my CNS was just not primed this day. Couldn't even hit 220. We are definitely going to hit another deadlift day, but I think it's just going to have to be a day that it's just like, you know those days when you walk into the gym and it's just like, man, I'm feeding it today. I'm feeling switched on. I've had fantastic pre-workout. I am extremely caffeinated. It's going to have to be one of those days, and I'm looking forward to that day because I can definitely feel that I've got at least 220, maybe even a 500-pound deadlift in me, which would be very impressive for me. But hey, I was a bit depressed about that day, but we kept on with it. Later on in the week, we hit some heavier squats, 150 for a triple, feeling really, really nice. I would say this was somewhere around like an RPE 8, maybe an 8.5. Again, with that middle bar back squat, really focusing on quad activation and trying to get as much knees over toes activity there. Again, 70 kilos for a triple, which was my old PR. It's good that I can just hit this consistently and build up some intensity there. Again, failing 80 kilos on the strict press, worked up to an attempt at a triple with 72.5 kilos for a triple. I got it for a single. I think it was actually a double on this set if I'm not mistaken, but I think I failed the last rep. So got that second rep, a little bit of a stretch reflex, a little bit of a bounce out the bottom there, but then missed the third rep, which was very frustrating. But I think in this video especially, I decided I'd lift topless. You can really see the gains in upper body size and strength coming in quite nicely. Then I finally hit 100 kilos for a relatively decent push press triple. Kind of more of a push jerk on the second and third rep, definitely more on the third rep, but I think within a couple of workouts, I'll definitely be able to hit a heavier push press triple. And then most recent workout that we did, we hit 130 kilos for a dip clean PR. I had no idea I was going to do dip cleans until I literally pitched up and started this workout. Just goes to show that a lot of Olympic lifting, once you have technical mastery or at least technical proficiency, it's more about strength than it is about anything else. Once you've reached technical proficiency in the snatch and the clean and jerk, it really is just about building up your squat, building up your press, building up your pulse until the point where, that leads to a PR. Speaking of PRs, I hit a 12 rep PR on 140 kilos for the back squat, Didn't think I was going to do this when I started it, but I was like, I've done 9 before and I really wanted to get 10. And I actually had like 3 sets of 5 programmed, did the first set of 5, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to try and take this for a ride, do as many reps as I possibly can. And 12 reps was a very, very good result for me. I was absolutely fatigued after that, and I'm still feeling a little bit of fatigue from that. Even today, this was like 3 days afterwards. So high rep squats will definitely take it out of you. High rep compound movements definitely will. Nonetheless, this was probably one of the better 100 kilo push presses I did in this phase of programming. Still kind of a push jerk at this point, but still building up that upper body strength. And finally, in the last couple of weeks, I've been able to return to sprinting. I've joined the athletics club, and stay tuned for more sprinting content. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate the view, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.